Mitch. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Hey, you're Mitch. You're a veteran who knows what it takes and to get ready for a season. And I was just wondering whether you feel like you're getting what you need in this off season rather than being in a regular OTAs, a regular off-season conditioning program.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me or guys like me, you get most of it. Right now I guess we'd be into our true OTA practices, and so you'd be on the field, you'd be, doing football movements, a lot of change of direction. I think that's kind of the worry. When we work out at home, it gets kind of boring after a while, so you tend to just kind of do your running, get it over with. You don't necessarily do all that change of direction, the movement stuff. So making sure you're staying up on that's always huge. In terms of the mental side, I mean, like you said, it's Coach Reed, it's his offense. And so there's always tweaks and new stuff. And the hard part there is not being able to kind of walk through it and practice through it. Guys learn in a lot of different ways. And so, some guys can kind of just watch film or look at the kind of the install and get the grasp of it. But it usually takes, a few times of moving through it, seeing how it fits, how your body kind of reacts to the play. And that's the thing that you're missing that, is not really replaceable in terms of working at it on your own at home.
Let's go to Breland Moore. Go ahead, Breland.
Hi, good morning. So I know it's a weird time for everybody living in this weird social distancing era, but you have actually managed to stay pretty connected with fans through a lot of your recipe sharing and social media. How fun has that been for you to kind of have that outlet to share and connect with Chiefs Kingdom still?
Yeah, that part has been awesome. I always like to cook. This time of year we do a fair amount of traveling, so I'm not able to do that quite as much. But I made some dishes and just kind of threw together, a 6 or 7 picture thing on Instagram, just said like, hey, here's what I've been cooking lately, and people really liked it. So I figured I'd just kind of the next day throw up another food thing, and people still really liked it, and it just kind of grown from there. Like you said, I mean, I think the thing that people are struggling with is not seeing, coworkers, friends, not having interaction. So you're kind of relying more heavily on the social media side of it. And so being able to do that, it's been a lot of fun. I actually have time to post stuff and respond to people and, react. Typically in a normal kind of environment or work day, I'd be on the go. And so you kind of just post something, leave it, and check back later to see if it was successful or not. But now you can actually, see the people commenting, and especially food stuff. Some people have particularly strong opinions about what you're making, but for the most part, they're kind of like, hey, that's awesome. I like to do this, or have you tried this? And, I'm always looking for a better, spice or recipe. And, that's definitely been fun and rewarding.
Let's go to Pete Sweeney. Go ahead, Pete.
Hey, Mitch, thanks for spending some time with us. I had one question on the field and then one off, similar to what Breland was getting to. On the field, I was wondering, when you're an offensive lineman and Andy Reid's always talking about building on top of the program, I just wondered what types of little wrinkles you can add in year 5 that maybe you couldn't have done in year 1 or year 2. And then on the cooking side of things, I was wondering what the quarantine has done for your level of cooking, because it feels like you've really become almost elite off the field at cooking through this quarantine. So again, on the field enough, please.
Yeah, I'd say on the field, I mean, just like him building an offense, it's not the same iteration every year. You're always looking to improve on something. I mean, if you're talking, pure technique and fundamentals, I mean, no one's perfect. And so you're always looking to, kind of hone in on things. I mean, from the tackles perspective, there's a lot of different angles and a lot of different, types of pass sets and play actions and, just different launch points and things of that nature. So you're always more comfortable in one than the other. And I think you're always trying to kind of raise that weakest part of your game up. And that's something that's, really important to kind of self-scout. And, it's something that really any, staff would do, whether it's offense, defense, special teams. I mean, you look at what's been successful, you want to keep doing that. You look at what's been the weakest and you want to improve that the most, or just say, hey, this doesn't work for me, I'm going to try something else. And so that's something that you're constantly evolving. And then also, making sure that fits within the offense, because, on any particular play, if the quarterback's thinking this, or, we're doing this and that, I have to be in track with that. I mean, if I take a certain type of pass set that doesn't necessarily mesh with how deep Pat is or where he's supposed to be, I might technically be successful, but the play itself is going to not be successful because I'm not in the right position for him. So it's all that, all the time. It's just a constant evolution. And then in terms of, off the field, I don't know. I think I'm definitely trying different stuff than I would. I think that's kind of been the fun part, is having all this time and being able to really plan out recipes and try different things. I think, in terms of the food side, I'm not professionally trained or anything. And so I do rely, a fair bit on watching videos, learning about it. I think the acid thing is what I'm not that good at. Typically these pro chefs they're balancing all the flavors, the right sweet and savory and acidic. And that's something I'm trying to get better at. I don't really think about the acid component too much, but that usually is, whether it's the squirt of lemon at the end or, adding something to it. For those that know Thomas Keller, he's a chef. I'd watch his little masterclass thing, but he likes to say that the acid raises the dish. And so, it's kind of like adding salt, kind of enhances everything else in the dish. And so understanding kind of how to make things more well-rounded than, here's oil, here's garlic, here's salt and pepper, and here's protein, and let's just cook it and make it happen. Definitely trying to, do more well-rounded things.
Let's go to Herbie. Go ahead, Herbie.
Hey, Mitch, I hope you're well. I hope you and your family are well. I realize you haven't been on the field yet with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but when you have a shifty running back like that behind you and elusive kind of guy, what are some of the things that you always have to keep in mind as a blocker when you're blocking for a guy who has the skill set as he does?
Yeah, you just kind of want to get the smallest, opening you can, and you kind of just trust him to do the rest. I think a guy like that actually, from our perspective, we don't really change what we're doing. The kind of premium is on moving the line of scrimmage. Any run game, as far as the running back can get into the line of scrimmage, is going to be the most beneficial. It's going to pull the linebackers onto the O-line. If you think about a running back, if there's penetration and he's making a cut, 3 yards in the backfield, just the timing of the play, maybe the center who's climbing up to the linebacker, he's probably not going to be there yet. The linebacker is going to jump behind, based on the cutback early, and the center can't get there. Now the play is, completely dead. Whereas if, we have a yard or two of movement on the line of scrimmage, the running back can get right back behind there. The linebacker is kind of frozen. He's stuck. He doesn't know what to do. And that brings the linebacker to us. And so that's always the premium that, we're thinking about. When you look at, D-Lin and EB and the way they coach running backs, they coach them very hard, and that's because it's all interconnected. When you got a running back who kind of freelances and does his own things, things don't mesh too well. So it's a really good harmony. And, it is nice to know that worst case scenario, someone gets cut loose, he throws that devastating spin move at him and jukes them out of their shoes, and maybe can make us look good.
Let's go to Mick Schaefer. Go ahead, Mick.
Hey, Mitch, I saw that you're recently named the most underrated player on the Chiefs. I don't know if that's like the most offensive line award ever, or maybe it's not because you get that attention. I'm just wondering what it's been like for you winning the Super Bowl. Your play the last couple of years, you've always been a guy that's been in the shadows, but now you're getting more attention, whether it's your play on the field, whether it's the cooking, whether it's the palms. Do you welcome all that all the extra attention?
Yeah, it's definitely good to be, highlighted and showcased. I think you tend to go from underrated list to overrated list pretty quickly in this business. So you can only have a limit on how many underrated lists you're on before, the narrative flips pretty quick. But no, it's good. You definitely want to get, rewarded for what you do. That's why, guys, not to quote unquote chase money, but, typically that's the only way you're really defined in the league in terms of your value is how much you make. And so, that's why guys are always striving for, top dollar, because they want to say like, hey, I'm valued at this spot relative to my peers in my position. And you always want to be the best, and you always want to be, compensated the highest. And that's a huge part of, I guess, the psyche of, contracts that I think maybe the outside world doesn't understand quite as much. Because there's nothing else to, figure out, how the league views you, how your team views you. So yeah, it's awesome, to get credit for stuff. It's definitely a good thing. Like I said, there's probably going to be an oversaturation at some point, but it doesn't really, that's never impacted me. When it's been negative, it's not going to be, any different, really positive. So I'm just going to keep, doing my thing, and, hopefully people are liking the way I'm playing, and as long as my wife likes my cooking, I'm good from that perspective.
Let's go to Sarin Petro. Go ahead, Sarin.
Mitch, thank you for the time. On the business side of things, since you brought up money, right? DeMaurice Smith was asked a question about the likelihood of the season. And he said he was given a scale 1 to 10, 10 being the most likely that it happens. And he said it's a 6 or 7. That's probably been the first time we've heard anyone around the NFL say that maybe the season's in jeopardy. Everyone else has talked about it being full speed ahead. I'm just curious, one, what's your thoughts? How apprehensive are you about no fans or potentially a loss of games? And then have there started to be any conversations amongst the Players Association? We hear all the back and forth, particularly in baseball. Are there any conversations going on with the Players Association that you're aware of or that you've been a part of?
None that I've been a part of. I'm sure, at the high level, they're doing all that with, Treader and D and all the team reps. We have had the benefit of time. I mean, we're still 2 months away from, when training camp would start. So we've been particularly fortunate as a league to kind of get hit with this at the right time. And also, obviously, selfishly, a month earlier and no Super Bowl. So, it's kind of just worked out timing perspective all the way around. It seemed realistic what he said. I mean, he's not trying to be a total optimist. It wasn't doom and gloom. My inclination from the get-go was that they're going to find a way to make it happen. There's so much money involved from all sides. And, that was something that when they were talking about, I guess free agency was the first thing, post-COVID. And there were some people saying, oh, they shouldn't do it. And, the optics and all that. And of course, it was a massive success because people love the NFL. They want the content. That's one of the most fun, particular days of the year where teams are getting influxes of new talent. The draft went through and the ratings were up, 30, 35% across the board. And so those kind of two events kind of strengthened my view that there's just a lot at stake, mostly money. And that's just the reality of it. But from all sides, I mean, we obviously want to play. This is what we do. It's fun for us. We miss playing. We miss hanging out with our buddies. We miss the competition. It's just beneficial from all sides to come together and find a solution. And I just thought, with how much was on the line and at stake, they would definitely come out with a solution. And, I'm sure it's very difficult. Like I said, I've not been privy to any conversations. I can't imagine having to figure all that out, medically, football, fans, revenues. It's so many moving parts. Luckily that's not part of my job capacity. I'd probably have less hair if that was so. It's going pretty good. I finally got my post-COVID haircut and sad state of affairs.
Let's go to, so we got time for a few more guys. We're going to go Harold, Nate, and then Sam to close us out. Go ahead, Harold.
Hey, Mitch, hope you're doing well, man. I hope dinner's good too. I'm sure it's going to be excellent. Hey, a couple questions on a couple of your teammates. One, you kind of LDT's been in some of these conversations, of course, with the Players Association. Just kind of your how he's been in the meetings and how proud you are of him as a teammate for what he's doing. And also, I know you're big into golf. How's your golf game going? And what's Patrick Mahomes' golf game like if he was actually able to get into one of these events with Tiger and Phil?
I would love to see Pat do that. I think we saw golf's kind of a different world. I mean, you have one or two bad shots, everyone's watching you. It gets pretty nerve-wracking pretty quickly. I mean, I'm, mostly terrible at golf, and I like to play with people who lose as many balls as I do. And so when you're playing with, literal professionals and at least one who's top one or two golfer of all time and another guy who's up there, it's pretty intimidating. I mean, you just feel bad when these guys are ripping it down the middle and you're got to go find your ball and it takes 10 minutes to do it. So, it seems like Pat's pretty good at it. He's a super competitive dude, and I know he's gotten into the golf world. And so it only makes sense that that's something that, in the off time when he can, he tries his best at. So I'd love to see him do it. What was the beginning of the question?
How proud you are, LDT,
oh, Larry,
how proud you are of him, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
he's
like literally helping people. We're kind of going back here, not doing too much. I mean, I did that all on challenge thing and, we helped raise some money for it, but, that's still not me, physically helping people and, being in kind of the hospital ecosystem. That was the reason for the social distancing at the beginning, because the hospitals were getting inundated. They were overworked. They didn't have the capacity. They didn't have the resources. And so him being in a position to be able to, help out and do that, I mean, it's tremendous. Obviously he's got, a much better grasp of the hospital and medical system than probably anyone else in the NFL from the player perspective. So bringing him in as a resource to really understand, kind of how those things work and how they run, obviously smart of the league and it's super cool that, we have a chief who's doing that.
Okay, Nate Taylor, go ahead, Nate.
Hey, good to see you, Mitch. I have two questions for you. The first one being, a lot of guys have, said in the past how much they value and respect your perspective of the offense, given, just your stature in the league. Andy Reid and some of the other coaches have said that they've given players the capability to sort of do an install or to, speak to the entire group in a Zoom meeting than just a, head coach or assistant coach. I was just wondering if you've been given that opportunity, and if not, what that's been like to watch your teammates kind of teach you guys as you go along this remote offseason program. And then secondly, the Chiefs drafted Lucas Niang in the 3rd round. I know he played tackle in college. There's been some discussion that maybe he'll slide down the guard to maybe start his NFL career. Just what have you learned about him, and what's it been like to sort of teach him the offense based on what you saw from him in college?
Yeah, so the first question, I think, maybe does the skill guys kind of do that more in their room? The O-line, we tend to meet with the whole offense for kind of just our part, and then we bounce. So having me up there, installing run plays and talking to 15 guys when there's, 50 in the room, probably not the greatest use of our time. So we do that in the O-line room. Coach Heck and Coach Matei do a good job of keeping things interactive. And especially in this format, the hardest part is you don't really get to see the reactions and the get to hear kind of the laughs and the chuckles, because we're all muted, and when those guys are showing their film, they only get to see what's on the screen. They don't get to see us, and so they can't even see our reaction. So that's been the hard part, but they're keeping it interactive. We do not really test stuff, but hey, let's put up a play. Mitch, this is the play, can you talk us through it? Usually they have a good sense of putting something up that maybe needs to be talked through a little bit more than a traditional play. So, hey, talk through your specific job on this one, because in this look, like this defender might do that, and you just kind of know that, and that's something to kind of mind tap the rookies on. And then, yeah, Lucas has been awesome. All the rookies, seems like they're picking the stuff up fast. Like I said, Coach Heck keeps it interactive, so he's always asking questions and making sure we're on top of things. And it's been really impressive to see them get all the answers mostly right, and they've got a good sense for it. I think that's kind of one of the ethos things from Veach and Coach Reid, bringing guys in that are smart and successful, and you don't have to coach the work ethic or the kind of the simple stuff. You bring the right guys in, you trust them, and so these guys are smart. It seems like they get it. It'll be fun to work with them once we get on the field. That's always kind of the fun part for me, is kind of being able to do some of the little coaching mentor stuff, and just making guys, that was, not to get off track too much, but that was really fun with the XFL, being able to watch guys that you played with that moved on, and so now you get to see like Pace and guys like that who are playing, and just kind of keep up with them, because you spend on a traditional off season, you spend 4 or 5 months with these guys, you get to be really good friends with them, and you always want to see them succeed.
Let's go to Sam to close out. Go ahead, Sam.
Hey, Mitch. I'm wondering just how much new stuff you're learning now as far as playbook stuff, new plays, new install stuff, compared to what you would normally get this time of year. Is it similar? And then if not, obviously training camp is going to be different from a physical standpoint because of what you've missed. Is it going to be also different from that, the former standpoint, the mental standpoint, learning new stuff standpoint, because of what you've missed?
Yeah, obviously I can't tell you what, if any, new stuff we have, but
I don't need this specific.
No, I know what you're asking. So in terms of the typical off season, there's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then mandatory minicamp. So all those you kind of restart, and you basically start kind of installation from scratch. And then, with phase 2 OTAs and minicamp, you're then able to walk through and practice those. And, like I was saying earlier, that's the thing that you're missing out on. So all the virtual meetings are essentially what we'd be doing in the building anyway. It's like the same time frame of meetings. We're able to cover the same stuff. The difference is you're not able to go through the physical aspect of, getting the muscle memory for that play. And then you're also not able to watch the film of it. And that's another big thing is, you're always learning through other players. That's a big kind of cliche in coach speak, but it's true. If Coach Heck is talking to me about something, that applies to anyone who would play that position. And really sometimes it applies to every single spot anyway when we're talking about, the body position and, all those things. And so I think that's going to be the hardest thing to kind of catch up on. I mean, you can install something for the fourth time. And like I said, I mean, guys learn so differently that for a guy who really needs to feel the plays, walk them through, a fourth install is essentially the same as a first install. And that's I'd say the big worry in terms of learning the playbook and, learning new stuff. In terms of the physical perspective, I mean, yeah, I'm curious. I mean, I know our training staff and Rick and those guys, they always, and Barry, they have worked together. They have a really good idea of, what they want to do. I mean, they've been through it with the lockout in terms of having to start camp and be smart about it. Like I said, I mean, the change of direction stuff and, the ramping up of what you would normally do. I know it changed a little bit with the CBA. I think you have maybe 2 more days before you can put pads on, but I know they have a plan to, quote unquote, ease us into things to make sure, we're not particularly at risk. And then it's also, I mean, this is our job. So we're probably gonna have a conditioning test when we show up. We have to be in good shape. The onus is on us too. I mean, if you show up out of shape, it kind of shows that maybe you don't, haven't been putting in the work. It's not as important to you. You have to be in good shape to kind of do that ramp up process. You can't really show up, kind of in middling shape, go through 4 days or whatever, and then expect to practice and not get hurt. And so huge onus on us to, do our part in the off season as well.